So tell me, you mentioned that you were pointed in the direction by some attorneys to look at prosecutor's office. So tell me about some of those challenges that you faced as a young prosecutor.
Well, the first was finding a job. The market for prosecutors, particularly right now in Anno Domini 2026, is very lucrative. Young lawyers don't want to be prosecutors. There's a lot of things that have happened legally with the legislature that make it difficult to be a prosecutor, particularly if you're wanting to keep your law license for longer than about 5 minutes. I tell all the young prosecutors who come in to my court is, every time you step in, you're anteing up your bar card. So make sure you're doing this stuff right so you can keep your bar card. And I was really lucky to have spent a semester, maybe a little bit more than a semester, interning at the Lubbock DA's office. And the DA at the time, Matt Powell, is an Aggie in Lubbock prosecuting Red Raiders. And he was good friends with Bill Turner, who is a Red Raider and was prosecuting Aggies in College Station. So Matt Powell got me an interview, and Bill Turner very graciously hired me. And I will be grateful to both of those gentlemen for as long as I live, because, like I said, it was kind of a tough hiring environment during that time. And Bill took a chance on a brand new lawyer who was, 32, 33 years old, and made me a felony prosecutor from jump. He also happened to surround me with some really outstanding felony prosecutors who'd been doing it for a long time. They were my training wheels and make sure that I didn't crash and burn. So it's hard to describe the actual employment problems and dilemmas that were going on for lawyers back then, particularly because everyone wanted to become a prosecutor at the time and get a job.
I can imagine it was pretty competitive. So You started working in, what was that, Washington County? Were you in Washington, or was it?
Brazos County.
Brazos County. Okay. Boy, that's some pretty country there, especially in the springtime.
The heart of Aggie land.
It is the heart of Aggie land. So what were some challenges being a young lawyer prosecuting felonies right away? What are some of the challenges you faced in that environment?
Unless you're at a law school that does a lot of focus on trial skills development, I've always told people that going to law school is a lot like going to bicycle repair school, and they never let you touch the tools. You know the theory, but being able to get in and deal with the actual nuts and bolts and see how they combine and are able to be disassembled is something that it takes time getting in front of a judge and in court and doing those things.
I can relate to that. I was very fortunate. I went to Baylor, and they did thoroughly prepare us for the courtroom. And I remember my first hearing in front of a real judge. I was defending a motion for summary judgment, and there was $100,000 on the line. My client was going to lose $100,000 if I lost that hearing. And I was just a few weeks out of law school. My boss handed me a file and said, go defend this motion. And I felt like I knew the law. I felt like the law was on our side and that we should win. But you never know. And it's so nerve-wracking when the first time you stand up in front of a judge. And I did win that day, rightly so. And but I remember when you go through a hard time, there's just that kind of exhaustion at the end. It was like an hour hearing where my adrenaline was up the whole time, and then there was this exhaustion. And I was like, how do lawyers, they don't go to Baylor or other schools that really prepare them for trial, how do they handle the pressure of someone having that much at stake, whether in the criminal defense world, whether it's their freedom, or whether in the civil world, which was my first hearing, was $100,000. This man was, I was like, that was a lot of money. That is a lot of money, and it was on me to make sure he got to keep it. And yeah, it's a lot of pressure.
I was lucky. I got paired up with a fantastic prosecutor by the name of Ryan Calvert and placed in with the 272nd District Court under Judge Travis Bryan III, who was an incredibly patient and incredibly forgiving judge. And I got to make a lot of mistakes on a lot of things without it being catastrophic to my career. And a lot of attorneys don't have that capability, particularly if they're not going into a DA's or CA's office, and they're not going to be in front of one judge constantly. They're not going to be able to kind of figure out the personality quirks or preferences of the judge, and it's like tiptoeing through a minefield as you're bouncing from court to court. And when you're dealing with felony cases, there's always the possibility of going to prison on those cases. So, and getting back to what you were talking about, having that life experience prior to coming in, being able to take a look at a case, being able to judge a case, frankly, when it comes to misdemeanors, it's a little bit easier for me to have this conversation sometimes, but you realize that some of these people, most of these people, particularly with misdemeanors, they're not bad people. They just made a mistake. So difference is that when you get into felonies, sometimes they're really, really bad people.
Yeah.
And being able to draw on that life experience and take a look at a case, being able to take a look at an individual defendant and realizing, is this person dumb or is this person mean, is something that you can't teach in the classroom. You have to have that broad base of experience to be able to make those types of value judgments.
And I'm sure having good law partners, good partners that you're trying your cases with who have more experience, I'm sure that was really helpful in developing that discernment. And of course, probably being a leader in the Marines, you'd probably been able to identify patterns of behavior pretty well too.